Alrighty, then Aoyama. Let's get this review started. Izuka said, staring at the blonde-haired boy in front of him. It was time, Izuka decided, for a performance review. Izuka figured that since 1A's time here was swiftly coming to an end, he should inform them of how well they'd been doing. Perhaps it was a bit early considering they still had a little over half a week left, but Izuka figured that nothing super significant would happen in that short amount of time. And so the two sat in Izuka's office. Izuka was behind his desk with Aoyama sitting in front of it, ready to discuss this matter. I am glad you are no one for wasting time, Mr. Midoriya. Truly you are a magnifique man, Aoyama complimented. I do hope my performance was to your liking. I tried my very hardest. Well, it shows, Izuka said, giving him a fake smile. Aoyama was going to be the hardest out of everyone to review, considering he was the traitor and all. Because after that revelation came to light, Izuka couldn't look at Aoyama or his actions the same way again. He began to interpret anything he did as either a sign of suspicion or a call for help. Obviously, he couldn't let Aoyama know that, or even suspect it, so he had to fake it until he made it. You've done everything we've asked of you without complaint. And you haven't had any major incidents like Todoroki or Mina. Izuka summarized. Overall, a very solid performance. Aoyama did a little bow. Thank you very much, Monsieur Midoriya. I am glad my efforts have borne fruit. Well, you've been a great help, and we've been glad to have you, Izuka said, offering his hand, which Aoyama shook. Now, I don't want to take up any more of your time, you're free to go. Aoyama bowed, and swiftly took his leave. After Aoyama left, Izuka waited for a few seconds. Is he gone? Yes, father. He's gone. Yonda, who'd been under the desk the whole time, confirmed. He didn't suspect anything throughout the whole interview, father. Your performance fooled him completely. Izuka breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goddess. Thank you, Yonda. Now please go hide in my room. It might be suspicious for you to leave here right after Aoyama. Of course, father. Yonda said, getting out from under Izuka's desk and giving him a polite curtsy, with a huge grin on her face. I'm very glad that you utilized me for this task. I love it when my abilities are put to good use. Izuka sighed. He still really didn't want to involve her in this more than he needed to, but it was very important that Aoyama not suspect they knew he was a traitor, and since no one could see what was under his desk unless they were sitting where he was, this was relatively risk-free. Although it still encouraged her to get more into this matter than he'd like. Don't worry, father. Once Aoyama leaves, my part to play in this will be over. Yonda reassured him. Izuka sighed. I hope that's the case, Yonda. I really do. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Well, Ashido, your performance here was almost perfect, Izuka said to the pink girl, who was now sitting in front of him as Aoyama had before. Honestly, I would have said you'd had the best performance here. If it weren't for the candy thing, Mina said, blushing with embarrassment. Yeah, not my best moment. Yeah. Izuka sighed. However, considering I didn't have the foresight to impose any regulations or rules on the candies and their usage, I'm going to take responsibility for this incident, and put it aside while speaking about your overall performance. Mina frowned at that. She didn't like that Izuku was blaming himself for something that was clearly her fault, but there was little she could do to convince him otherwise. She could only hope this therapist would help Izuku out of his self-deprecating habits. Now, overall you've been a very big help in increasing morale around the house. Izuka continued. You've worked to make sure everyone here has been in good spirits and kept all the kids busy with some fun activities. And most of the kids love you for it, and the ones that don't generally still like you at the very least. Except for Yonda. Izuka thought. And Ken. Well, these kids have had enough of being sad, don't you think? Mina asked him with a smile that just emitted positive vibes, which made Izuka smile back. Yes. I completely agree. Izuka nodded. But back to the review, of course, there was the Kyoku incident. Your work there was simply spectacular. I am extremely grateful for you comforting her as you did, and allowing her to open up to you, and by extension, revealing some very important things to us, which is another reason I'm so willing to look past the candy thing. Well, I have my upsides and downsides, Mina said. On one hand, I'm a really positive, feel-good gal. On the other hand, I'm kinda dumb. Izuka wanted to argue against her calling herself dumb, but he couldn't find it within himself to lie to her at the moment. Moving on to your potential employment, I see no real reason to not employ you, Izuka told her. Even acknowledging your mistake with the candies, you're still a very kind-hearted person, who lifts the spirits of those around her, and applied for the job out of a genuine desire to make my children happy. And most importantly, I can be sure you're not secretly an assassin. Honestly, that's the most important part here. Given that someone with substantial influence and resources has been out to kill me, and gone to great lengths to try. I still can't believe someone hates you so much just because you're quirkless, Mina muttered in disgust. It's unfortunate, but until we can apprehend the people responsible for those attacks, the number one thing I have to look for out of employees is that they won't try to kill me or take the kids, Izuka told her. This was true for both employees he'd hired before. Sori, while she did leave a bad first impression, has had a history that had been recorded since she was born. He knew more about her than would like, and thus he knew she wouldn't try and kill him. Sai's history was less documented, but she was a pro-hero, and while Endeavor proved that that shouldn't give you a free pass, she at the very least, seemed to be a better person than Endeavor, who always seemed kinda off, and she willingly left the glamorous hero life behind for moral reasons, so that had to say something about her trustability. Chol was American, so unless his assassins were an international power, which he doubted, they would have nothing to do with her. Not to mention Star and Stripe vouched for her, and All Might vouched for her, so really he didn't have much reason not to trust her. And now Mina. She'd been in the house for this long and hadn't tried to kill him, and Yonda, despite disliking her, never suspected her of being an assassin. And given how Yonda was, if she didn't suspect her at all, then it was probably a good sign that she was innocent. Now, I believe it would be a good time to discuss the terms of your employment, Izuka said, taking out a contract that he'd drafted not too long ago, that was about as thick as someone's finger. I'm not gonna have to read all that, am I? Mina asked nervously. Izuka gave her an apologetic smile. It's best if you did. Ugh, hi. Mina groaned as she gazed at the contract. The next hour was going to be very, very boring. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. So Azui. Izuka started. Call me Tsu. Tsu reminded him. It was now her turn in front of Izuka's desk. And she was confident she'd done well during her time here. Right. Tsu. Izuka stuttered a bit, before regaining his professional composure. So, you've done a wonderful job during your time here. Both in assisting in the children's education, and in playing with them. I think you might be one of Kiba's favorites. I'm happy to hear that, Tsu responded. Speaking honestly, when I heard about you doing all this, I thought you were a little insane. But after working with all these children, I can start to see your logic a bit better. I haven't seen kids smile at me like this, since my siblings were little, well, littler. But seeing this many children smile and laugh, after knowing all they've been through, it's an amazing feeling. It really is. Izuka had a look of pure elation on his face, at hearing someone say what he'd been feeling for so long. This job is its own reward. Right. I still think you're way in over your head, Tsu admitted, taking on something like this, at 15. But I have to respect what you do, and for the most part how you've handled it. Excluding the waiting until you collapse to hire employees part. Yeah. Izuka let out a long sigh. Speaking of which, I'd like to talk to you about maybe volunteering here every now and then. Tsu offered. I don't think I could take a dedicated job position here. I just don't think I have the time. But I'd still like to help around here every once in a while. That'd be great. Izuka responded. You're welcome to come here anytime you'd like. Thank you, Tsu said. I look forward to working with you in the future, Karo. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. Are you okay, Ida? You seem a bit stiff? Izuka asked the class rep, who was sitting opposed to him. I'm fine, just slightly nervous, Ida admitted, trying to get somewhat comfortable in his chair. I fear that perhaps my performance could be lacking. What? No, Izuka told him firmly. Why would you think that? You've done a fantastic job interacting with the children. In particular, you've done good work preventing them from doing anything stupid. Like that time with Netsu and the fridge, or the time they tried to use Sansan as a slingshot to play real-life Angry Birds. Yes, it is alarming how many ridiculous ideas these children have, Ida said, his voice full of worry. And unfortunately, I can't stop all of them. No one can. Not really. Izuka reassured him. These kids are very chaotic, and their quirks play into that. Combine that with having a playground the size of an entire forest, and it's impossible to keep track of them all. And it's only going to get harder when there are even more of them. That sounds extremely tiring. Ida almost shivered at the thought of trying to maintain order with that many, overly powerful children running around causing trouble. Taking on this responsibility has given me a greater appreciation for the amount of work you have to do to give these children a future. I can't comprehend the amount of fortitude it would require to do all this on your own. Thank you, Ida. I try my hardest. Izuku told him. Now, back to your performance review. As I said, you did a good job keeping the kids safe from themselves. You also did a great job teaching the kids during sparring. Particularly that lesson you gave Kiba and Nara about pacing themselves, very important. Yes, making sure not to exhaust yourself before you achieve your goal is a key element in not only running, but general hero work as well, Ida stated. I'm glad I had the chance to impart such knowledge to them during my time here. As am I. Izuku agreed. You've done everything we've asked of you, and more. I'd say your performance here was spectacular. Thank you for your praise, Midoriya. I value the praise of someone who works this hard for such a benevolent goal, Ida said, getting up and giving him a bow. I don't think my word matters that much, Izuku said, turning red and sheepishly smiling. But, thanks. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. So, how did I do? Ochako, casually leaning on the desk, smiling at Izuku. I have a feeling you know, Ochako. Izuku smiled back at her. You're still the favorite among most of the kids in your class. Alright. Ochako cheered, raising her arms up in celebration. I'm not losing that title to anyone anytime soon. If you keep visiting, I doubt you will, Izuku said. You have a knack for getting into people's hearts. As soon as Izuku said those words, everything froze. Ochako took a second to process those words, her mind trying to judge if he'd really said that, and when she finally took those words in, her face went bright red. For Izuku things went much quicker. As soon he realized those words slipped out of his mouth, his brain realized what he'd done, and his face went just as red. I meant you're a very friendly person who's nice to be around and gets along with people really well. Izuku added very quickly, trying not to make that sound romantic. I mean you chosen by All Might to be his successor, and also that has to mean something, right? Why yeah, I guess I'm pretty likable. Thanks. Ahaha. Ochako awkwardly laughed it off, trying to get rid of the awkward tension in the room, to no avail. Well, I think I summarized your performance pretty well. You're free to go, Izuku said, even though the meeting had only just started. Thanks. See ya, bye. Ochako quickly ran out of the room, desperately trying to hide her red face, and heading straight towards wherever she could splash some cold water on her face. Meanwhile, Izuku just slammed his face onto his desk. Oh, WHYYYYYYYYY. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. After waiting several minutes to calm himself, Izuku moved on to the next person up for review, Ojiro. Now, Ojiro, I have to say, your stay here has been extremely productive, Izuku told him. The kids are very fond of your martial arts. I think they're just more amazed that I managed to get this far with such a lame quirk, Ojiro admitted. Well, I wouldn't say your quirk is lame, it's just not flashy. Izuku consoled him. You've been able to do some pretty cool stuff with it. Yeah, well, I'm just trying to do the best with what I've got. Ojiro shrugged, before looking a bit regretful. Although I really should stop complaining about my quirk in front of a quirkless guy, huh? Sorry if I was being insensitive. You're fine, Izuku told him, giving him a reassuring smile. We're both doing the best with what we've got. I think you're doing a lot more, to be honest, Ojiro told him, before looking around the room. All this came from one 15-year-old, with nothing to his name. Not even a quirk. It's pretty amazing. Don't cut yourself short, Izuku retorted. Your quirk doesn't shoot lasers, or let you take down a building, or tank car to the face, or anything like that. But you took the matter into your own hands and used martial arts to make it more useful. And with just that, you managed to get into the most exclusive hero school in the world. And in about 3 years, you're gonna be out there on the streets, saving lives. I think that's amazing. Has this review just turned into two guys complimenting each other? Ojiro asked with a bit of a laugh. I guess it has, Izuku said, joining in with the laughter. Well, I don't think I have much else to say, you're free to go. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Alright, Kaminari. I'll be honest. I don't recall much of what you've actually done here. Izuku told him. Yeah, that's fair. Kaminari shrugged. I kinda felt like out of everyone I was the least useful here. My quirk's not great for sparing, I don't know how to do much. I think the only thing I did here besides basic chores was teach Ken how to play the guitar, and Jiro did half of that. Well, that's still something. And you did still do the chores without complaint. So it's not like you weren't helping. Izuku reassured him. And don't be too upset about not being super helpful. You were training to be a hero, not a babysitter. So it only makes sense that your skill set might not be super useful here. Huh, guess that makes sense, Kaminari said with a thoughtful expression. Still wished I could have helped out more. After hearing about all the work you've done, would have been nice to lighten your load a bit more. Don't worry about that. Izuku shook his head. All the work I've been doing is stuff only I can do. At least for now. I have a secretary coming in from America. I think I'll be able to trust her with some of the more sensitive documents. From America? Kaminari asked, looking slightly shocked. I mean nothing against Americans, but why get someone from another country? I can't tell you that for confidential reasons, but let's just say I have my reasons. Izuku told him, before swiftly moving to the next topic. But back to what I was saying before, don't underestimate how useful another set of hands can be. You can clean, help deliver meals, carry things, and honestly, that's all I needed from you. Anything else was just extra. So if anything, helping Ken play guitar was just going above and beyond. Ah, you're flattering me too much, dude. Kaminari chuckled. You know, you're a great guy. I just don't get how people could treat you like shit for all those years. Izuku sighed. That's the power of poisonous beliefs. Well, I would have totality stood up for you, dude, Kaminari told him. Izuku smiled. Thanks. That means a lot. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Alright, well Kirishima, you definitely showed a lot of enthusiasm, Izuku told the red-haired boy across from him. Kirishima was currently bandaged up after a sparring match with Kiba. Well, I tried my best. Have to go plus ultra with everything. Yeah, although I'm not sure how I feel about you acting like a punching bag for the kids. Izuku winced as he recalled the various times he'd seen Kirishima have to go to the med bay. Well, I don't really mean to be, but those kids are tough as hell, man, Kirishima responded. They're gonna be crazy when they get into UA. Villains aren't gonna stand a chance. Well, I hope that's the case. Izuku sighed. Honestly, I'm a bit worried. I know they're strong, but as much as I love heroes, and I love the idea of them going out and helping people, the idea of them putting themselves in danger by fighting villains, it scares me. Hey, don't worry, man, these kids are gonna be fine, Kirishima reassured him. Sansan's pretty much unkillable, you can't even fight her unless you have a quirk she's weak to. Kiba's just way too strong for anyone to handle, and she's only gonna get stronger. Fu and Kaiosei are literally unkillable unless you're freaking Endeavor or something. Kai is an unstoppable Goliath that only Uraraka, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Tokoyami can even fight. Netsu is literally untouchable, he's like the next Endeavor, and once Ken and Nara get a hold of their quirks, they'll be the ultimate Swiss Army knives of heroes. Izuku didn't look convinced. Of course, he knew the kids were strong, most villains wouldn't be able to beat them, even as children, let alone as fully fledged adult pro heroes. But they were far from invincible. Kiba would get weaker as fights went on. In a prolonged fight against multiple villains, she could get outlasted and fall. Kai was tough, but he was a massive target. He shuddered to think of what would happen if someone like Overhaul got his hands on him. Kai would have no way to dodge. Netsu could easily suffocate himself, leaving him open to attacks, if he didn't suffocate himself first. Ken and Nara had time limits, and once those times were reached, they were pretty much helpless. And while Fu and Kaiosei, while hard to kill, could be worn down eventually. Or someone with a strong fire quirk could just destroy them outright. Heck, even Mina could kill them relatively quickly. But the main thing that worried him was All for One. The villain that crippled All Might and seemingly got away. None of his children would stand a chance against that monster. But he didn't doubt they'd still fight him if someone was in danger. It was a thought that filled him with great pride, and even greater fear. Thank you, I feel much better now. Izuku lied, putting on his best fake smile. You're free to go, by the way, thank you for your help. Really? Didn't we just start? Kirishima asked. Well, there wasn't much to through, and there's no need to waste your time, Izuku told him. You're dismissed. Thank you. Kirishima gave him a confused look for a second, before shrugging it off, and taking his leave. Alright, see you later, man. Once Kirishima left, Izuku opened up his drawer and pulled out a calm candy bar, quickly took a bite, and felt his body ease up. You shouldn't worry like that, father, it's bad for your health. Yonda told him. She was still in his room, reading a book, thus could still hear everything going on. Besides, All for One will be handled long before any of my brothers and sisters have to deal with him. All might beat him before, and I'm sure he'll be more through the next time around. And if he can't do it, remember, Achiko's going to be even stronger than him. She'll take him down. Yeah, I have to believe in Achiko and All Might. Izuku told himself. Thank you, Yonda. No problem, father. Now take some time to relax. Yonda told him. Well, first I have to finish this up. Izuku told her. 8 down. Alvin to go.